My name is Millie, and I'm going to be telling you about my internship experience with Jouneys. Jouneys is a developmental disability agency that provides behavioral interventions and supports for children with special needs like autism and other developmental delays. Jouneys offers a bunch of different services, but the one I'm going to focus on is habilitative intervention, because that's what I learned the most about, and it's what I want to do for a career when I graduate. I first started working at Jouneys 4 years ago, and that's how I first learned about the program and what it does. And my supervisor contacted me 2 years ago for an internship opportunity, and so I've spent my time at school preparing for that, to prepare me for a career as a habilitative interventionist. My responsibilities as an intern involved a lot of the day-to-day processes of the DDA. There's a lot of paperwork and documentation required by the government that for a child to qualify to receive services and to continue to receive services. Things like habilitative intervention evaluations involve a lot of summary and documentation of medical, psychological reports, physical therapy, speech therapy, individualized education plans, and things like that that we have to have on hand. I did skills assessments, just observing new clients and seeing where they're at with particular tasks. And then I wrote program implementation plans to help decide which objectives would be best for a child to work on to gain the most independence. And these plans detail the objective, the steps to reach that objective, what negative behaviors a child has regarding working on that objective, and what reinforcement works best for that child to have them continue to work on that objective. The program implementation plans was the most challenging for me. It took a lot of time, and it was a very difficult process. Percentages is what is calculated at the end of each month of how well a child did on an objective, and I did that for several months throughout my internship. I also calculated utilization of how many hours of services a child had received and how many they needed to receive for their further plan. I also helped revise a document for another service that Jouneys offers, and I helped plan respite parties, which is just a fun little activity once a month for the kids to do where they can have a break and have some fun, instead of working on their goals all the time. The way that I benefited Jouneys is a little bit unique in that when I first started my internship, they had just lost a supervisor, so they were in a transition time of trying to readjust caseloads and things like that. So there was a lot of paperwork that needed to be done that wasn't getting done, and so I was able to fill in and help them out there and just do whatever they need to get done to be able to catch up with the loss of one of the supervisors. I also provided a lot of insight and a fresh perspective on things that needed to be updated, like the habilitative supports document and the new employee information packet, and I feel like I added a more positive atmosphere when dealing with challenges because of some things that had been going on in the office when I arrived. And the personal benefits that I received from being an intern at Jouneys were huge. I learned a lot about what I can do and what I can't do. I discovered through this experience that I have a need to be perfect right at the beginning, and I learned with the responsibilities that I have that it's not always quite possible, especially with the program implementation plans that I mentioned earlier. And it was just a really humbling experience for me to be able to learn to ask for help and to receive correction. And I also learned about what would be required of me as a habilitative interventionist. It requires that I write the program implementation plan, so that was a really good experience for me to go through, even though it was a difficult one. I learned from doing so much paperwork that I really like to have a more direct influence on the kids that I work with. And so that was a really good thing for me to learn, that I don't like being stuck in an office and doing paperwork, and Jouneys kind of offers both, so that was a good thing for me to learn. I also learned a lot of professional skills regarding business relationships and deadlines and doing what it takes to meet those and setting priorities to make sure that I do the best that I can. There were a lot of connections to my education at BYU Idaho. The biggest one that I discovered is that there needs to be a helping relationship and an ethical relationship at the same time, and it's kind of a fine line to balance that, but it can be done, and when it's done, it's the most effective way to handle intervention type relationships. And we talked a lot about that in the practicum course in teaching education classes about marriage and family life. And it was a really good thing to see applications for that in a real world job. I also learned the value of accurate data when collecting paperwork and making sure that things are done on time. It's really important to have a system set up to make sure that everything is as accurate as possible. And I learned a lot about that in my research and evaluation class, and in doing observation and making sure the process is set up beforehand to make sure that the things are as correct as they can be. I also learned a lot about time management and setting priorities and doing whatever it takes to make those priorities come about in as effective way as possible in my home and family management class. And it was really good for me to learn that, because I kind of struggle with that in juggling internship and work hours and also my personal life. So it was really good to find applications for that as well. I also learned about behavioral interventions in my Principles of Behavioral Learning class and my Cognition Psychology class. We talk a lot about behaviorism and the best way to get desired behaviors, and we use a lot of that in teaching children the skills that they need to make sure that they're done in the most appropriate way possible. And it was probably the most fascinating connection that I found to my education, in that it's something that I'll be using every day at work, and I think it helped me understand the concepts a lot better when I could apply it to something that I'd be doing every day. Overall, my experience at Jouneys was very rewarding. It was challenging and difficult, and I learned a lot. And I think this experience would be a great one for anyone who wants to learn how developmental disability agencies work in the state of Idaho. There's a lot of things that apply specifically to Jouneys that would be hard to generalize to other job opportunities, but overall there's a lot of professional and basic skills that a Jouneys internship provides that can benefit anyone. So I would definitely recommend it. It was a great opportunity to learn about, and I definitely learned a lot about myself and saw a lot of growth. If you would like to learn more about a Jouneys internship, you can contact the Director of Children's Services. Her name is Alana, and she's great to work with, and she would love to have you contact her for an internship. So thank you for listening.